Welcome to Infidelity Nest. Today we step quietly into a story of desire, restraint, and the invisible lines that test us. What you're about to hear is a journey through subtle glances, unspoken emotions, and the kind of tension that lingers long after a moment has passed. I never imagined that a simple phone call could ripple through the calm of my life, touching corners I didn't know existed. It was a Saturday afternoon when my phone buzzed, displaying a name I hadn't heard in years. Adam, my closest friend from university. His voice, usually confident and teasing, held an unusual hesitancy. "Sam," he began, "I need a favor. Ethan, my son, will be in town for a few months. He needs a stable place to stay, and I thought maybe he could stay with you." I hesitated for only a second, then agreed. In my mind, I pictured Ethan as I had always known him. The boy in my memory, with an easy laugh and a backward baseball cap from vacation photos. When the doorbell rang that afternoon, I expected the familiar awkwardness of a teenager stepping into someone else's home, but the person standing there was no longer that boy. He had grown into a tall, confident young man. At 22, he carried the ease of adulthood and the kind of quiet charm that makes a room take notice. His eyes were a clear, piercing blue, lively yet calm, and when he smiled, it was the kind of smile that made you pause unexpectedly. "Hello, Samantha," he said, his voice steady, polite. "Thank you for letting me stay. Your place?" I said with a soft laugh, amused by the formal tone. He stepped inside with an air of ease that was somehow grounding. The living room, my familiar sanctuary, felt different, as if it had been waiting for him. We spent the afternoon navigating the ordinary, a tour of the house, the guest room where he would settle, and unpacking the few belongings he had brought. There was simplicity in his presence, a subtle reminder that even small gestures could hold weight. Dinner brought a shift I hadn't anticipated. I had prepared something comforting, the kind of meal you serve when you hope a person feels at home instantly. Yet, across the table, his gaze held me in a way that made every movement feel charged with possibility. He watched not out of rudeness, but with a curiosity that seemed intent on understanding more than the surface. "Your house feels lived in, warm," he said softly. "It feels like a place you could really settle into." "Thank you," I replied, almost instinctively. "I hope you feel at home here too." His smile deepened, almost conspiratorial, as if he were letting me into a private joke. For a moment, silence hung between us, heavy but not uncomfortable, like the pause before something inevitable. Later, as we cleared the table together, our hands brushed. It was a fleeting touch, and yet it left a spark I couldn't ignore. I wanted to convince myself it was imagination, but his eyes, calm and observant, suggested otherwise. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized how much the simple presence of another person could disturb the quiet rhythm of a life I had grown used to. He was Adam's son, yes, but he was also a man, fully grown and undeniably magnetic. The first few days passed in a blend of normalcy and subtle tension. Ethan moved naturally through the house, helping with chores, carrying groceries, making coffee. He seemed to know instinctively when to step in, when to hang back, when to make conversation, and when silence was enough. Each gesture, small on its own, combined to create a sense of intimacy I hadn't expected and hadn't invited. One evening as I worked in the kitchen, he rolled up his sleeves. "Let me help," he said. "You must have better things to do than peel vegetables." "Not really. And I don't mind the company," I replied, my voice slightly catching. His presence was comforting, yet it stirred something unfamiliar. We moved through ordinary tasks, talking about university days, his studies, his plans, and the little quirks of our families. Laughter lingered, and sometimes our eyes met with a gravity that seemed unspoken yet unmistakable. A quiet ritual began to form. Morning coffee became more than routine. It became a shared moment. He would wake early but wait for me in the kitchen, always smiling, always patient. "Sharing breakfast changes everything," he said one morning, voice low and thoughtful. "Even a few minutes like this." The words lingered far longer than intended. Evenings became a dance of subtle proximity. Watching a movie together, sitting close yet not touching, feeling his body instinctively adjust to mine. It was a tension that seemed to hum between us. Nothing overt, nothing inappropriate, but charged, electric, undeniable. Then came the rainy night. The power went out, and I lit candles to keep the house warm in the semi-darkness. We sat side by side, wrapped in blankets, talking quietly. Ethan's voice was thoughtful, almost confessional. I wish I'd had more time with you when I was younger. I feel like I've missed knowing you. His words struck deeper than I anticipated. My breath caught. A silence followed. Alive, vibrating, full of unspoken meaning. Our eyes met, and I understood without speaking that the current between us was no longer just familiar company. It was something more, something emotional, intense, compelling. We were adults, aware of boundaries, and yet navigating the fine line between connection and restraint was impossible to ignore. That night, the world outside seemed distant, irrelevant. The house, the rain, the flickering candlelight, all amplified the tension, the closeness, the sense of intimacy that had grown quietly over days. Every glance, every touch, every shared moment began to accumulate into a web of desire and emotional dependency neither of us had planned. It was no longer just hospitality, just company. It was attention, recognition, and a kind of magnetic pull that left me breathless. Morning routines became opportunities for quiet conversation. We shared small meals, and he always seemed to find a reason to linger nearby. It was a delicate rhythm, one that made me both anxious and alive. Each day revealed more of his personality. Thoughtful, perceptive, sometimes teasing in ways that drew a laugh out of me I hadn't realized I'd been withholding. Our conversations deepened. We spoke of dreams, regrets, and the subtle disappointments life sometimes delivers. I shared stories of my own struggles, past relationships, and ambitions deferred. He listened without judgment, his attention unwavering, making me feel seen in ways I hadn't for years. One afternoon, while organizing bookshelves, our hands touched while reaching for the same book. We froze, holding eye contact for a moment that stretched impossibly long. The air between us shimmered with a quiet intensity, and yet we both laughed nervously. The tension diffused but not gone. I began to notice that even in mundane tasks, his presence had a gravity that demanded attention. As weeks passed, Ethan's stay became a natural part of my life. Yet, underlying this normalcy was an awareness of something unspoken. Neither of us acknowledged it openly, but our mutual glances, the casual touches, and the lingering conversations hinted at a deeper connection forming. One evening, we took a walk in the neighborhood, the cool air carrying the scent of rain-soaked streets. Our conversation meandered from light-hearted observations to personal confessions. Standing on the sidewalk under a dim street lamp, we paused, neither willing to break the moment. "You know," he said softly, "I feel like I'm finally seeing a side of you I should have known sooner. It's different from the stories I grew up hearing." His words caught me off guard. I realized how deeply I valued his opinion, how much it affected me to hear him express admiration and understanding. I found myself smiling, a mix of amusement and something warmer. Days turned into weeks, and the bond strengthened. We navigated shared routines with a growing intimacy that was emotional rather than physical. Subtle touches became comforting gestures, shared laughter became a private language, and every conversation carried a depth that left an impression long after it ended. One night, over dinner on the terrace, the sun casting golden light on his face, our hands brushed while reaching for the same glass. Neither of us moved away. Our eyes met, holding the unspoken understanding that this connection was now undeniable. There was warmth, tension, and a shared acknowledgement of feelings that neither of us had dared to articulate. In these moments, I realized how profoundly human connection could awaken dormant parts of oneself. The attention, respect, and understanding we shared were intoxicating, a slow-burning fire that demanded recognition. Each day became a test of self-awareness, restraint, and emotional honesty. We grew accustomed to each other's rhythms. Mornings, evenings, even small interludes during the day became markers of a deeper relationship. We explored conversations about life's ambitions, disappointments, and the meaning of happiness, finding that even silence between us could communicate more than words ever could. The more I learned about him, the more I recognized the qualities that had always been there but unseen. Thoughtfulness, patience, humor, and an emotional maturity that contrasted with the youthful energy he carried. And yet beneath all of that, there was a spark of attraction, subtle and unspoken, a tension we both felt but neither named outright. On a quiet evening, as we sat watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. This connection, this unexpected intimacy, had illuminated aspects of my life I had long ignored. It was not reckless, nor inappropriate. It was the awakening of feeling, companionship, and mutual respect between two adults discovering each other. Days continued with shared routines, deep conversations, laughter,